Hello friends, welcome to Star Explainer. Tales of Herding Gods Part 331 and 332 explains based on novel. So let's start explanation. There's no need to chase him anymore. Clear Sky Sect Master called back those old Taoists that were prepared to give chase and shook his head. That person's speed is too fast and he is good at transformation. He's able to change his face as and when he likes, so even if we can chase after him, we also won't be able to recognize him. Just leave this matter at that. There's no need to look into this or make it publicly known. Who is going to find junior brother Fei He? That old thief had disguised himself as junior brother Fei He, so Fei He must have been tied up somewhere by him. I'm not sure where he's being stuffed in. There were Taoists that immediately left to search for Fei He's location, while the other elders came quickly to Clear Sky Sect Master. They asked, the astronomical phenomenon had transformed into Heaven Duke and activated the formations earlier. What is going on? It's naturally the work of Dao Ancestor. Clear Sky Sect Master said, Eternal Peace Overlord Body, the emissary of the celestial heavens. They all want to get rid of each other and leave no choice for Dao Ancestor. But who do you think Dao Ancestor is? How would he let these two juniors decide his fate? This is not what a wise person would do. Everyone's heart trembled. What Sect Master mean is? Dao Ancestor seized them to the celestial heavens was naturally to make his own decision. We don't have to worry about Clear Sky Sect's future and fate. Dao Ancestor will arrange it for us. Clear Sky Sect Master said, we just need to think of how to deal with the aftermath. One of the Taoists hurriedly said, Yu Chenzi has already brought some men to prepare. He said that he would be preparing for both cases. Clear Sky Sect Master listened to the details and couldn't help exclaiming in admiration. Yu Chenzi has done very well. The celestial heavens have outstanding people. Such a small country like Eternal Peace could also have so many outstanding talents. It's lucky that our Clear Sky Heaven also have a younger generation that is comparable to them. We aren't falling behind by too much. Outside Clear Sky Heaven, Daoist Fei He brought the little Daoist to fly quickly, and soon enough, they were tens of thousands of miles away from Clear Sky Heaven. He kept changing continuously, and he was sometimes a man and sometimes a woman. He was sometimes old and sometimes young. He could even transform into the form of half-gods, and would take out numerous sets of clothing, which made the little Daoist flabbergasted. Not only was this elder full of changes, but he was also even skilled in the art of creation, changing his appearance over a dozen times. It should be safe now. The Taoists of Clear Sky Heaven won't be able to catch up. That elder changed back to his original appearance, and he walked around Celestial Venerable Yu with his hands behind his back. He examined him with an honest-looking face, and as what Qin Mu had expected, this elder was none other than Cripple. Celestial Venerable Yu was feeling uneasy. Truly a good sapling. Cripple praised and said, You learn everything fast, and you are even faster than Mua, that little rascal. Come. Let us be petty thieves and steal throughout the world. Celestial Venerable Yu hurriedly shook his head. I want to find my brother. Why do you want to find him? Cripple shook his head and was slightly unhappy. This brat was very interesting when he was young, he's not as fun when he grew up. I teach him heaven pilfering sun switching hands and thought that he could one day steal throughout the world with me, becoming a grandpa and grandson duo. Now, look at him, running out to play every day and not bringing me along. Furthermore, he doesn't steal as well. After learning from Butcher, his head is full of muscles now. Let's go, I shall show you my treasure vault. Let me tell you, I become so rich these few years, that even Emperor Yangfeng will have to call me Lord Thief. Can you fly? Let me teach you how to step on the wind. Light flickered and Qin Mu was situated in the flowing light. He was slightly stunned. This is teleportation divine art. It seems a little more intricate than Teacher Woodcutter's teleportation divine art, it also seems like a shift in space. Could Dao sect and founding emperor have an unclear relationship? Teleportation divine art was imparted by Saint Woodcutter to heavenly saint cult, and the light, which Qin Mu and the rest were in, was a shift in space. It was even more intricate than teleportation divine art, and the algebra was even more exquisite. Both of them had similar points, so that was why Qin Mu suspected Woodcutter had seen before the space shift from Dao sect. He was originally a little flustered, but now he had calmed down. He quickly sorted out his thinking and thought to himself. Heavenly Teacher Fisherman said that the older generations were all scheming and crafty. Wise and sensible, that is indeed the case. This space shift divine art was definitely executed by Dao Ancestor, by borrowing the power of the astronomical phenomenon. He doesn't want me and Xiao Chunfeng to decide the stand of Dao sect for him, thus he had captured us to make his decision personally. When the light faded away, Qin Mu saw the light gradually retreating. Xiao Chunfeng, the young woman in red, and Dao Master Lin Xian also appeared from the retreating light. The woman in red revealed a look of fear and put up her guard. Xiao Chunfeng coughed and said, "Yu Hongxiu, there's no need to worry, Dao Ancestor is the one that had summoned us." Dao Master Lin Xian praised and said, "When Dao Ancestor was mobilizing the heaven duke formed from the aspect of the celestial bodies, the algebra used is truly incomparable." Qin Mu examined his surroundings and realized that they were located in a vast construction made of jade. This construction was built with bricks of jade and roof beams that were extremely high. Looking upwards, one could see 6 corners, so it should be a hexagonal building. Looking out, one could faintly see that there were thousands of palaces and halls outside. That was a dazzling sight. It's extraterritorial celestial heavens outside. Qin Mu's heart stirred. He wanted to walk out of this jade building to see if it was still the Dragon Hand celestial heavens from back then, but he held himself back. He continued to examine this building. The building was hollow, and there was a pillar that required a dozen people to hug stabbed in the center of the building. Steps swirled around this pillar, and looking down from upwards, one couldn't see how many floors there was in this building. There were rows of bookshelves at all 6 walls on every level, and they were also carved from fine jade. On every floor, there were several jade bridges that were between the jade pillar, so one could walk to the 6 walls through the jade bridges to read the books. However, the weird thing was that this library was empty. When they suddenly appeared here, no one came to ask anything. They looked out and saw that there was no one in the surroundings as well. It was very empty. This is Guardian Pavilion of the Celestial Heavens. Xiao Chunfeng's gaze wavered and he said with softly, "Guardian Pavilion, this is the supreme sacred ground where the celestial heavens collect their books. The books that are guarded here are all top secrets of the celestial heavens." Strange, why did Dao Ancestor summon us here? Isn't he afraid that the celestial heavens would discover that he had actually summoned the rebels of the lower bound here as well? Yu Hongxiu calmed down her emotions and endured her pain. Dao Ancestor has summoned us, so why hasn't he shown himself? Qin Mu asked in concern, "Sister Hongxiu, are your injuries fine? I am skilled in the art of healing. After getting treated by me, you will be able to bounce around soon enough." Yu Hongxiu snorted and left further away from him. She moved closer to Xiao Chunfeng. Dao Master Lin Xian walked forward and said kindly, "Senior Sister Yu, Cult Master Qin is known as the Divine Physician in Eternal Peace. He was even known as the Sacred Hands of Gynecology when he first started out. His reputation has spread throughout the heaven." Yu Hongxiu gritted her teeth and sneered. "Both of you have ill intentions." Qin Mu shrugged. He climbed up on the jade steps and came to the bookshelves on the 2nd level of Guardian Pavilion. He took out a book randomly. The book was forged from jade and split into long strips that were strung together with a golden string. It was like books strung together with bamboo writing slips, but what was carved on it weren't writings, it was runes. Lin Xian, Xiao Chunfeng, Yu Hongxiu also walked forward. Xiao Chunfeng and Yu Hongxiu were slightly further away from them, and they also took out a jade scroll to take a detailed look. These strange runes. Yu Hongxiu shook her head. She didn't recognize those runes, so she put it back. These are basic runes of great Dao that are constructed by algebra. They belong to the heavenly spirits' runes of the heavenly cycle stars. The runes in my scroll belong to leader star. Xiao Chunfeng said. Could the other scrolls be the great Dao runes of other heavenly spirits gods? No. Qin Mu shook his head and said, this scroll of mine is also the runes of leader star. Mine too. Lin Xian put down the scroll in his hand. Xiao Chunfeng moved quickly and opened up the other scrolls. He saw that the runes on the scrolls were all runes of leader star. Leader star sovereign was a god of the stars and was also an ancient. He was born from heaven and earth, born from the leader star. There should only be 100 types of basic runes, but the number of runes recorded on these jade scrolls was simply way too much. This made Xiao Chunfeng slightly at a loss. Are these leader star sovereigns divine arts that are recorded on the jade scrolls? Aren't there way too many divine arts? Qin Mu's heart stirred and he suddenly waved his hand. His vital qi flew out and all of the jade scrolls on the bookshelves flew up. The scrolls open up as they swirled around the jade pillar, and the runes on the jade scrolls faced the translucent jade pillar. The jade pillar refracted the light and reflected the runes on the jade scrolls. The runes gradually lighted up, and a scarlet dragon, heavenly god, actually appeared inside the jade pillar. It looked fierce and fiendish, vivid and lifelike. So I see. Qin Mu swept his sleeve and all of the jade scrolls returned back to the bookshelves. He came to the third level and repeated what he had done. The runes of every jade scroll shone towards the jade pillar, and the figure of Strength Star Sovereign appeared. The runes on the fourth level belonged to Knowledge Star, while the fifth floor belonged to Leisure Star. Qin Mu climbed quickly and reached 360th levels. He aimed the jade scrolls here towards the jade pillar. Xiao Chunfeng's body trembled violently as he looked at the apparition of the ancient god that had appeared in the pillar. That was his mother, Great Moon Sovereign. This caused his heart to become flustered. The runes on these jade scrolls are just enough to form a star god. What is Dao Ancestor trying to do by using runes to reconstruct the star gods? Qin Mu continued to walk upwards, and on the 361st floor, it was Great Sun Sovereign. It was also the rune structure of Great Sun Sovereign. Qin Mu looked at the Great Sun Sovereign in the jade pillar, and he burst into laughter. No wonder Great Sun Sovereign had died so easily. Looks like he had been studied thoroughly. That's why another Great Sun Sovereign could be created after he died. Dao Master Lin Xian, Xiao Chunfeng, and Yu Hongxiu quickly followed after him, and their hearts skipped a beat when they heard what Qin Mu had said. Xiao Chunfeng laughed and said, Overlord Body Qin, what nonsense are you spouting? When had Celestial Heaven's Great Sun Sovereign died? He is clearly living well. Qin Mu took a glance at him and didn't say a word. The higher they went up Guardian Pavilion, the more astonished they were. After reaching the 361st floor, the position of the ancient god carved on the jade scrolls would be higher. For example, there were Purple Star God, Heavenly Emperor God. Finally, Yu Hongxiu gave a sharp cry. She saw the runes from the jade scrolls forming the shape of her master in the jade pillar. It was the figure of South Deity Zhu Q. Qin Mu said calmly, South Deity is not the only one, the other three deities are probably lined up as well. Everyone continued to climb up, and as expected, they saw the jade scrolls of North Deity, East Deity, and West Deity. Now that all four deities are present, what could be above? Xiao Chunfeng suddenly felt fear and his legs started to shiver. He stopped and didn't dare to walk up anymore. Qin Mu took a glance at him and shook his head. Celestial heavens trash. Xiao Chunfeng was furious. Don't underestimate the celestial heavens. After saying that, he gritted his teeth to follow him. This is goddess of heavenly yin. This is celestial empress, I saw her corpse before. That's not right, it's celestial empress sister. This is then celestial empress. Finally, they came to Mother Earth's level. Qin Mu looked at Mother Earth that was in the jade pillar, and he sighed ruefully. He said with a smile, no wonder Mother Earth would die in Yuanju. So it turns out your secrets have already been unveiled, there's nothing for you to hide anymore. Xiao Chunfeng and Yu Hongxiu were terrified. They looked at the Mother Earth inside the jade pillar, and didn't dare to think of the story within. Qin Mu shook his head and continued to climb. On this level, he saw Heaven Duke. The jade scrolls on this level seemed to be lacking and Heaven Duke's figure wasn't completely constructed. However, this kind of structure was also close to completion. Heaven Duke is not far from dying, said Qin Mu suddenly. Xiao Chunfeng and Yu Hongxiu's eyes were filled with fear. They wanted to turn and run, but there were still several levels to the top of Guardian Pavilion. These few levels held a lethal attraction to them and made them subconsciously wanted to climb up these few floors. Qin Mu climbed up another level and the runes in the jade scrolls belonged to Earth Count. However, much of the runes were lacking. The structure of Earth Count was also incomplete. There were many more missing areas when compared to Heaven Duke. If we continue to go up, it should already be Celestial Emperor of the Ancient Gods, right? Qin Mu said with a smile. Xiao Chunfeng and Yu Hongxiu almost fainted. Dao Master Lin Xian's voice was hoarse and he said with a chuckle, Cult Master, you are joking now. Why would Celestial Emperor let Dao Ancestor reconstruct himself? Could he want to kill himself to replace himself? Qin Mu said with a smirk, hard to say. After a moment, the three of them looked at that Celestial Emperor of the Ancient Gods, and were speechless for a long time. Yu Hongxiu finally gave out a soft groan and fainted. Xiao Chunfeng's face was deathly white, and his body was shivering. He didn't dare to say a word. Qin Mu raised his head, and saw that there was still one more level in Guardian Pavilion. He muttered to himself, basically, all of the ancient gods have been reconstructed, so what could the level above be used for? His curiosity was incomparably exuberant. The others already didn't dare to climb anymore, yet he continued to climb with great excitement. After a moment, the corners of Qin Mu's eyes twitched randomly as he looked at the youth inside the pillar in a daze. Dao Ancestor, what exactly are you trying to do? He muttered. Qin Mu controlled numerous jade scrolls to fly around the jade pillar, and the runes on the jade scrolls projected themselves into the jade pillar to form the shape of a youth. As the jade scrolls moved, the youth in the jade pillar also slowly turned his body as well. Qin Mu could clearly see the internal structure of this youth's head, as well as the internal structure of all kinds of organs. Qin Mu shifted the position of those jade scrolls, and he could even see magnify the organs of the youth's body and examine even finer structures. This youth was Celestial Venerable Yu. Qin Mu stood in front of the jade pillar and carefully examined the Celestial Venerable Yu that was in the pillar. The Celestial Venerable Yu projected out by the jade scrolls gave him a wrong feeling. The projection of Celestial Venerable Yu was not like the other ancient gods. For the other ancient gods, the runes of their Great Dao were first constructed using algebra as to recur the Great Dao. On the other hand, Celestial Venerable Yu's corporeal body was directly constructed using algebra. These jade scrolls weren't used to form another Celestial Venerable Yu, they were merely used to form another body of Celestial Venerable Yu. Qin Mu carefully examined the runes on the jade scrolls and as what he had expected, these runes weren't runes of the Great Dao, they were runes of creation. On the previous levels of the Jade Building, the runes on the Jade Scrolls were all runes of the Great Dao. They were rune markings formed when Dao Ancestor used algebra to deconstruct the Great Dao of the ancient gods. The runes of the Great Dao of algebra was different from the runes of creation. The Great Dao of creation was also a Great Dao created by the races after the beginning of the world. It wasn't the structure of algebra. Qin Mu felt that he was an expert in this field and the runes on the Jade Scrolls wouldn't stump him. Why is Dao Ancestor using these runes of creation to reconstruct Celestial Venerable Yu's corporeal body? He sank into deep thoughts. The quantity of these runes of creation was obviously not like the runes of Great Dao from the other levels. When Celestial Venerable Yu had just died, his cultivation was only just on the Celestial Palace, and he had just become a god. And yet Dao Ancestor placed the runes of creation on the highest level, and even put Celestial Venerable Yu above Celestial Emperor. What was the meaning of this? Qin Mu looked down and he saw this jade pillar leading straight down to the bottommost level. Layers of jade steps spiraled around the jade pillar, while the 6 walls of the jade pillar were the rows and rows of bookshelves, with the jade scrolls placed neatly. Qin Mu muttered to himself irresolutely. Dao Master Lin Xian and Xiao Chunfeng were still climbing towards the top, while Yu Hongxiu was still knocked out. Suddenly, his heart stirred and his vital qi suddenly burst forth. He sprinted down the jade pillar. Xiao Chunfeng was alarmed as he thought he was about to land a fatal blow on him, but he saw Qin Mu's vital qi flowing into every level. Qin Mu swept up all of the jade scrolls on those bookshelves and unscrolled them. Countless jade scrolls opened up and turned to face towards the jade pillar. In these several hundred levels, there was a huge amount of jade scrolls, so much that they were uncountable. Now, all of them had actually opened up. To control so many jade scrolls, even Qin Mu, someone who had cultivated to the peak of the divine arts practitioner, also couldn't help feeling a little strained. At this moment, the runes that were glowing on the jade scrolls shone onto the jade pillar, and instantly, the apparitions of ancient gods instantly appeared in the jade pillar. At this moment, the lights shone upon each other and a pillar of light shone upward from the inside of the jade pillar. Hum! All of the light struck into Celestial Venerable Yu's body that was at the top, and an incomparably dazzling light burst forth from the jade pillar. Qin Mu covered his eyes. After a moment, he got used to the intense light and looked at the jade pillar. The apparitions of ancient gods formed by runes on the jade scrolls passed through the refractions, by the marvelous structures, inside the jade pillar, and turned into spots of light in Celestial Venerable Yu's body. The spots of light gradually converged and formed Spirit Embryo Divine Treasure. After Spirit Embryo Divine Treasure was formed, 5 Elements Divine Treasure was formed afterward. On each of the 5 elements stars, there was an apparition of ancient gods. What formed next was 6 Directions Divine Treasure, where Mother Earth and Primordial Tree formed in the light. There were dragon veins, phoenix nests, mountain gods, river gods and small ancient gods, all of shapes and sizes. Next was the 7 Stars Divine Treasure, where the sun, moon, and stars appeared. Great Sun Sovereign and Great Moon Sovereign appeared on the sun and moon respectively, while the 360 star gods appeared on the stars and constellations in the galaxy. On the other hand, Heaven Duke's apparition was constructed by the stars, constellations, and galaxy to form Celestial Being Divine Treasure. Qin Mu looked again, and it was Life and Death Divine Treasure below. Yudu appeared and Earth Count was located in the darkness below Yuenju. Next was Divine Bridge Divine Treasure, a divine bridge that led straight to the Celestial Palace. Qin Mu looked at the celestial heavens and his heart trembled violently. He saw more spots of light formed by rune markings, which formed an incomparably vast celestial palace in the heart of Celestial Venerable Yu's brows. That was not a celestial palace. There were 36 celestial palaces. There were not just 36 celestial palaces, there was also 72 throne halls. This is a complete celestial heavens. However, the complexity of this celestial heavens seemed to be beyond his imagination. It was constructed by the runes of every ancient god's great Dao, and even celestial emperor was only an ancient god sitting on the throne in numinous sky hall. Not to say the celestial heavens, even the 7 great divine treasures were very different from the divine treasures of the divine arts practitioners in the world. The divine treasures inside Celestial Venerable Yu's body contained all kinds of runes from ancient gods, such as Heaven Duke, Earth Count, and Mother Earth. So the complexity was far above the divine treasures of divine arts practitioners. However, even if the divine treasures were that complex, it was still insignificant when compared to the celestial heavens. One could well imagine how complex the celestial heavens that Dao Ancestor had constructed inside Celestial Venerable Yu's body was. If this kind of technique was imparted out, it wasn't overturning the current cultivation system of the world, it was a massive perfection. Is Dao Ancestor sorting out these things in Guardian Pavilion to be used by the strong practitioners of the celestial heavens? Qin Mu was stunned. This sight in Guardian Pavilion was a great shock, and yet it wasn't as simple as perfecting the cultivation system of divine treasures and celestial palaces. These ancient gods that had their secrets fully grasped would be replaced in the future if they were disobedient. Heaven Duke, Earth Count, it would probably be the same for them. Yet one thing that puzzled Qin Mu was, why Celestial Venerable Yu? The rune markings on the highest level can transform into anyone, but why Celestial Venerable Yu? He was slightly puzzled. And with Celestial Venerable Yu's soul being incomplete, and a portion of his soul is hidden in this extraterritorial celestial heavens, Qin Mu couldn't understand this action of Dao Ancestor. Celestial Venerable Yu's soul was missing his memory, so could Dao Ancestor be creating another Celestial Venerable Yu and planned to input this memory into this new body? However, would that Celestial Emperor in the celestial heavens allow him to do that? Or could it be because that Celestial Emperor felt that Celestial Venerable Yu's corporeal body is the most perfect, so he plans to reincarnate into this body? It could also be that this cultivation system of the celestial heavens wasn't perfect, so that Celestial Emperor needed Celestial Venerable Yu's memory and intelligence to perfect this celestial heavens. Is this Dao Ancestor's idea, or is it that Celestial Emperor's idea? His head gradually started to ache, because Dao Ancestor's attitude was simply too puzzling. He had met the disciple of ancient god Celestial Emperor, Yang Qiling, once before, and the information she had revealed was that Dao Ancestor was assisting Celestial Emperor. Ancient god Celestial Emperor was different from the Celestial Emperor of the extraterritorial celestial heavens, and they seemed to be enemies that would not back down until one of them dies. Dao Ancestor was standing on the side of ancient god Celestial Emperor, and he was also the pavilion master, the Celestial Heavens Guardian Palace, assisting the Celestial Emperor of the extraterritorial celestial heavens to establish such a grand library. Now, Dao Ancestor had summoned into Qin Mu and the rest into Guardian Pavilion to show them the plan of the extraterritorial celestial heavens Celestial Emperor. Is Dao Ancestor good or evil? Is he neutral or biased? Or could he be? Qin Mu had a weird expression. A shit stirrer. Dao Master Lin Xian and Xiao Chunfeng came to his side and looked at the sight in the jade pillar. Both of them were also shocked and froze in place. They stood there, unable to say a word. Senior brother Xiao. Qin Mu beamed and said, "Have you seen the cultivation systems of the divine treasures and the celestial heavens in Guardian Pavilion before?" Xiao Chunfeng shook his head in a daze. "In that case, have you heard about it before?" Qin Mu continued to ask. Xiao Chunfeng shook his head once again. "You have not heard before or seen before. In that case, do you think anyone in the celestial heavens has cultivated this kind of system before?" Qin Mu slowly guided him to the answers he wanted and asked, People who cultivate this kind of cultivation system would definitely be incomparably strong and be known as invincible. He would definitely be someone like me and even made you feel that he is an overlord body, that he is another Qin Mu, a person that you look up to and cannot hope to reach. Have you met such a person before? Xiao Chunfeng returned back to his senses and looked at him with a weird expression. Dao Master Lin Xian also secretly felt that Qin Mu was rather thick-skinned. Who would praise themselves like that? However, Qin Mu wasn't wrong when he said those that cultivated this kind of cultivation system would be invincible in the same realm and made people have no hope of catching up. If there was truly a person that had cultivated according to this kind of cultivation system, from the 7 realms in the divine treasure to the 7 realms of the celestial heavens, there would definitely no one who could be a match on the same realm. If there were others than could cultivate to the realm of celestial heavens, they would even be the first from the past to the present. They would be invincible and even surpass the ancient gods. The only pity here was that there was only the structure of the divine treasures and the celestial heavens here, there was no technique. There were countless jade scrolls in Guardian Pavilion, and runes of great Tao on the jade scrolls were more than what they could count. Tidying all of these runes into one technique that unites all would definitely be an incomparably massive project. Lin Xian even suspected if there was a technique that could contain such a massive cultivation system. Furthermore, this kind of cultivation system isn't perfect. He looked at Qin Mu. Xiao Chunfeng didn't know about the imperfection in this kind of cultivation system, but Qin Mu definitely knows about it. This first point was that this cultivation system still had divine bridge divine treasure. And divine bridge divine treasure had already been replaced by celestial river divine treasure that Qin Mu had created. Celestial river divine treasure was better. The second point was still in the cultivation system of divine treasures. That 7 great divine treasures were isolated from one another, and they didn't transform into one complete divine treasure. Even the primordial tree rooted in 6 directions land was also not complete. It couldn't be connected to the divine bridge. If it was Qin Mu's celestial river divine treasure, he could perfectly solve this point. The third imperfection laid in the algebra that Dao Ancestor had used to construct the ancient gods. What Dao Ancestor used was macroscopic algebra like computational canon of supreme mystery, computational canon of mysterious lady. It was missing microscopic algebra like computational canon of supreme molecule, and that was something that Qin Mu had created, the computational canon of supreme molecule that Eternal Peace Dao sect had perfected. Without computational canon of supreme molecule, the great Tao of the ancient gods, which Dao Ancestor had deconstructed, was imperfect. With these 3 points, this cultivation system of celestial heavens which Dao Ancestor had constructed was imperfect. There should still be more imperfections within, but Dao Master Lin Xian could only think of these 3 points currently. Now I know the intention of Dao Ancestor for summoning us here. Suddenly, Xiao Chunfeng sighed and he became moody. He laughed at himself and said, "So I see. Now that I know the secret that lies in Guardian Pavilion, I can't stay in this celestial heavens anymore. If I want to live, I have to leave. Otherwise, when the secrets get out, I will definitely die." He smiled bitterly. He was originally loyal to the celestial heavens, but now he had no choice but to betray the celestial heavens. The more secrets he knew, the more danger he was in. Now that he knew Guardian Pavilion's secret, if Dao Ancestor told this to Celestial Emperor, he would definitely die without a word. It was the same for Qin Mu and Lin Xian as well. They had to keep this secret. If they couldn't, Dao Ancestor didn't need to kill them, there would naturally be someone to kill them. Dao Ancestor had summoned them here to perfectly solve the problem of choosing a side. He wouldn't stand on Qin Mu's side or Xiao Chunfeng's side. He just needed to summon both of them over so that they would have no more difference in factions. He made both of them stood there obediently. This is what village chief calls old and experienced. Qin Mu sighed ruefully. Only now did he understand how childish it was for him to plan to get rid of Xiao Chunfeng and forcing Dao Ancestor to take his side. This kind of old and experienced person could easily solve their selfish calculations. Senior brother Xiao, what do you plan to do after going back? Qin Mu looked at the frowning Xiao Chunfeng and asked with a smile. I plan to go back to Clear Sky Heaven and help Clear Sky Heaven get rid of the bodies, shifting the blame to Mother Earth. Anyway, another small matter doesn't really matter to her. Xiao Chunfeng gave another sigh and said, I will then fake my death and leave the celestial heavens. I won't contact my mother and hide as far as I can. Dao Ancestor is truly too ruthless by doing this. Qin Mu said with a smile, you plan to study this kind of cultivation system. You want to make a comeback in the future when you have the abilities to. Xiao Chunfeng said indifferently, my cultivation, abilities, wisdom and intelligence are no weaker than you. I naturally have such an ambition. Now that Dao Ancestor still hasn't sent us back, I shall memorize all of the runes in the Jade Scrolls here, farewell. He hurried down the building. Dao Master Lin Xian saw him down and he only said then, Cult Master Qin, that person in the Jade Pillar is your brother Yu. Qin Mu nodded. It's hard to explain. Let's not talk about this first. Let us go down first and memorize the runes on the Jade Scroll. Dao Master Lin Xian sighed and said, even if you say, I really don't dare to listen. The things in this building are already terrifying enough. He walked down with Qin Mu and whispered. This Xiao Chunfeng didn't see that when you clashed with him, you didn't use your primordial spirit. Qin Mu took a glance at him. Dao Master Lin Xian said with a smile, don't look at me like this, I know your true abilities. Even though you always say you are a line superior to me, I always the line you mean is a straight line, moreover, it's probably a vertical straight line. Qin Mu wanted to be humble and Lin Xian continued. Other people think that you are bragging, but they don't know that you are actually too humble. The divine treasures of the God path plus the divine treasures of the devil path, in addition to that, 14 divine treasures merging as one with the celestial river passing through every one of them, your abilities are already non-human. I wouldn't be surprised if you can beat a devil god to death with your bare fists. Qin Mu let out a sigh. Dao Master Lin knows me well. My humbleness is learned from Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. He always says he is a straight line, so as the overlord body, I have to be a line higher than the others on my age. Lin Xian was silent for a moment before saying sourly, if you continue to speak like this, you will get beaten to death. There were several hundred floors in Guardian Pavilion, and every floor had countless jade scrolls. There were also a huge number of runes on every scroll, so it was a difficult task to remember all of these runes. To do a good job, the best tools are needed. If we were to memorize them one by one, how long will we have to take? Qin Mu sat on the steps and he stared at Lin Xian, Xiao Chunfeng, and Yu Hongxiu hurrying to and fro, trying to memorize the runes in the Jade Scrolls. Yu Hongxiu had already come back to her consciousness, but she still had to rest for half a day in order to return back to her normal mental state. She also knew the intentions of Dao Ancestor, and planned to fake her death as well after leaving this jade building, thus she began to memorize the runes along with the rest. Memorizing the arrangements of the runes on one floor was already a terrifying amount to memorize. The arrangements of these runes could construct the structure of an ancient god's great Tao, so one could well imagine how complicated it was. It was very difficult to achieve this just by memory alone. Even if they were people with outstanding intellect, it would still take them 10 days to half a month just to memorize one floor. Moreover, the runes of the ancient god's great Tao at the bottom level were still considered simple. When it comes to the level of the four deities, the amount to memorize was dozens to hundreds of times more than the levels at the bottom. When it comes to Heaven Duke, Earth Count, Mother Earth, and Celestial Emperor, the amount to memorize would probably increase several folds again. Just by memorizing them and not making any mistake, one would probably have to stay here for a few hundred, or even a few thousand years. Qin Mu would never stay here for so long. The most crucial point was still that Guardian Pavilion was an extremely important construction in the celestial heavens, so anyone from the celestial heavens could drop by anytime. Dao Ancestor wouldn't let them stay here for so long. The longer they dragged this out, the greater the danger they would be in. This also meant that they had to memorize all of the runes in the building in just a few days and leave. Qin Mu rested his checks in his palms and fell into a daze. Dao Master Lin Xian, Xiao Chunfeng, and Yu Hongxiu were all in a frenzy as they quickly browsed through the jade scrolls to memorize with everything they had. The three of them would sneak glances over from time to time, and yet they saw Qin Mu still sitting there without an ounce of panic. The three of them were bewildered. Not long later, Xiao Chunfeng came to his senses. It's impossible for me to memorize all of the runes in Guardian Pavilion with such a short time. I'm not that intelligent, nor do I have such a strong memory. Therefore, I want to choose the best, and that is the runes of Celestial Emperor's Great Dao. The best solution for me would be to memorize the runes of Celestial Emperor's Great Dao. Once he came to his senses, he immediately left this building and headed for the top. At the same time, Dao Master Lin Xian also came to his senses. I can't memorize so many floors, so I have to extract the basic runes of these ancient gods, and turn them into serial numbers, arranging them into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In that way, I just need to memorize the several hundred runes and then memorize the arrangements of the serial numbers. In that way, I will be able to memorize the rune system of an ancient god's great Dao in the fastest time. He was slightly excited and immediately started to number them. Yu Hongxiu's eyes started to turn blurry, and she suddenly came to her senses as well. I'm learning from South Deity. I'm also a vermilion bird half-god. What's the point of me memorizing the runes of other ancient gods' great Dao? Because of the different characteristics, cultivating their runes would only make me spend twice the effort for half the result. She immediately headed for South Deity's floor. The three of them got busy while Qin Mu continued to sit on the steps of the first floor, lost in his thoughts. The three of them had no time to straighten him out, so they went on with their own work. Not only later, they peeked at Qin Mu when they took a break and saw that he had already stood up. He took out a bunch of calculation tools, brush, ink, and paper. He was writing and painting, activating his calculation spirit weapons to calculate some difficult questions. The three of them rested for a moment, and they went off to memorize their runes of the Great Dao. When their brains couldn't handle it anymore, they took a break again, and now they saw Qin Mu setting up a smithy and taking out a pile of divine metal. He raised the fire in the furnace and stuffed a crystal of heavenly fire in the furnace fire to smelt the divine metal. The three of them were puzzled, but they didn't have time to care about him. They rested for a moment before going back to what they were doing. Clang, clang, clang. Sound of hammering metal came from the bottom of the building, and the three of them were more and more puzzled. They popped their heads out and saw Qin Mu forging the god statue of an 8-armed devil god. He summoned a spirit for that god statue that came to life. The god statue grabbed 8 huge hammers and began to hammer a huge chunk of divine metal. Meanwhile, Qin Mu executed Devil Fire Divine Art, God Fire Divine Art, and Yin Water Divine Art to continuously temper that chunk of divine metal. The three of them kept quiet and continued to memorize diligently. Sometime later, when Qin Mu was still forging, the hammering sounds were so noisy that the three of them couldn't concentrate. Yu Hongxiu couldn't take it any longer, and she hardened her heart. She popped her head out and shouted upward, "Senior brother Xiao, the one with the surname Qin has gone crazy. he doesn't want to learn and he's not letting us learn as well. Let us get rid of this guy. Xiao Chunfeng was also rather irritated by the noise. He hesitated for a moment before shaking his head. We can't. You aren't a match for Lin Xian, and even though I'm no weaker than him, if he works together Lin Xian, I will also die. Quite some time later, Lin Xian's head was also swelling from the noise and shouted downward. Cult Master Qin, settle down a little. You're too noisy. Xiao Chunfeng popped his head out from above and he cried out. Dao friend Lin, we are both from Dao sect, so we are senior and junior brothers. Why don't we work together to get rid of this lunatic Qin? Sharpening the axe will not interfere with the cutting of firewood. By getting rid of this lunatic Qin, we can memorize even faster. Yu Hongxiu also popped her head out and nodded repeatedly. This guy is not putting in any effort, and not letting us memorize. How nasty. Let us get rid of him first, then we can learn in peace. Dao Master Lin Xian shook his head and said, Stop talking nonsense. Cult Master Qin always has his own idea when he does something. There's definitely a reason for him to be doing so. I'm just asking him to be quieter. Qin Mu was still there hammering away. That 8-armed devil god statue had already been reduced to scraps and thrown into the Dao Tai sack by him. He was doing it personally now, and his speed wasn't slow as well. Lin Xian looked down and saw that Qin Mu was forging a mirror. He was hammering runes of creation into the mirror to expand more and more space inside the mirror. What is he doing? Dao Master Lin Xian took a look and couldn't understand, so he continued to memorize the runes. Another 1 to 2 more days later, they got used to the hammering sounds, and even though it was noisy, it couldn't affect them anymore. Suddenly, the hammering stopped and the 3 of them were driven mad. They popped their head out and Yu Hongxiu stared with her eyes wide open. She was about to say something when Dao Master Lin Xian roared angrily, Scumbag Qin, why aren't you hammering anymore? If you don't hammer, we can't calm down. Yu Hongxiu couldn't resist and burst out into laughter. This Dao Master Lin is always so mature and earnest. I didn't expect his temper to be even more explosive than mine. Qin Mu was currently sweeping the ground, and he cleaned everything up without leaving a trace. He raised his head and said, I'm done hammering. Wait a moment, I'll come up after I finish sweeping the floor. After a moment, he lifted up a mirror with his vital qi and went up the 2nd floor. The 3 of them looked at him and saw Qin Mu using his vital qi to sweep up the jade scrolls. The jade scrolls opened up and shone towards the mirror. Next, Qin Mu placed the jade scrolls back to their original positions and climbed up to the 3rd level. They saw him repeating the same actions again, and not long later, he climbed up to the floor where Lin Xian was on. Dao Master Lin Xian looked towards the mirror and was astonished. He saw jade scrolls that were opened up in the mirror, and the runes of the Great Dao could be seen clearly on the scrolls. These jade scrolls were arranged neatly in rows, and he could check the rune markings on the jade scrolls anytime. Stop memorizing. Qin Mu arranged the jade scrolls from the bookshelves in the air and shone the mirror at them. He said with a smile, even if I give you 100 years, you can't memorize every single level. Moreover, if you memorize wrongly, you also won't know where you are wrong at. Dao Master Lin Xian looked into the mirror and saw another row of jade scrolls. He saw that the runes on the jade scrolls were exactly the same at the runes on this level. There was no mistake at all. The only difference was that the jade scrolls in the mirror were flipped. When I go Dao sect to seek knowledge, I will give you a copy. Qin Mu continued to walk up and left the dumbfounded Lin Xian on the spot. After you calculate it again, with computational canon of supreme molecule, give me another copy. Lin Xian came back to his senses and stumbled after him. He looked at him with a depressed expression, as he imprinted rows after rows of jade scrolls from the bookshelves. Does this mirror uses the world inside the painting by heavenly painting art saint? He couldn't resist asking. That's right. Qin Mu said without even turning his head. There's also my grandpa Mute's forging skills, as well as Crimson Emperor and Light Emperor's art of creation. I even use magnetism, divine art from Granny Sai to overlap part of the space inside the mirror. Dao Master Lin muttered with his lifeless eyes. Wonderful, how wonderful. That's right. Qin Mu turned back and gave a kind smile. Dao Master Lin Xian found his kind smile to be unexplainably annoying and wanted to just punch him ruthlessly on the face twice. Soon, Qin Mu came to the level where Yu Hongxiu was on an imprinted South deity Zhu Qi's runes right in front of the girl in red before walking up to the next level. Yu Hongxiu had a blank gaze and followed behind Dao Master Lin Xian in a daze. She followed them up to the upper levels. Is Eternal Peace's overlord body Qin always so quirky? She couldn't resist asking Lin Xian. Lin Xian said helplessly, he's always like this. The structure of his brain is different from us, He shook his head and smiled bitterly. I also don't know how his brain grows, maybe the brain of an overlord body has a unique structure. Finally, Qin Mu came to the level where Xiao Chunfeng was on and Xiao Chunfeng opened his mouth wide, when he saw Qin Mu imprinting all of the runes from the jade scrolls into the mirror. Bat hump. Xiao Chunfeng collapsed on his butt and his limbs were weak. He hung his head down dejectedly. Dao Master Lin Xian stretched his hand out to him and gave him a warm smile. It's okay, you will get used to it, there is still a long time. Qin Mu stretched his lazy back and said with a smile, I'm finally done. As for the runes of creation on the topmost level, I think there's no need for them. Now that we have imprinted these runes down, Dao Ancestor should be sending up back to clear sky heaven soon. Just as he said until here, human voices suddenly came from outside and they were gradually closing in. They could only hear a loud and clear voice speaking. Is Guardian Pavilion still considered peaceful these days? Guardian Pavilion is a forbidden ground inside a forbidden ground. Who dares to sneak their way in here? Another elderly voice said with a chuckle. That is true. That loud and clear voice said, now that the creation divine weapon is constructed, His Majesty's intention is to retrieve the runes first and create that body. That elderly voice asked doubtfully, is it still too early to make it? There are still many runes that are not yet perfected, and we still haven't found 36 different celestial palaces. The sound of the door opening came from the bottommost floor, and two long shadows appeared in the sight of Qin Mu and the rest. Qin Mu made a hush action and signaled for the others to move back. The four of them hurriedly moved to a corner in the Jade building, so they wouldn't be found out. Qin Mu secretly looked at the two shadows, and saw that one of the shadows was extremely gorgeous. Behind the head was layers and layers of flame-shaped vein lines. His Majesty's intention is to first manufacture it, and the rest of the runes could be slowly perfect in the days to come. That shadow with the flame-shaped vein lines walked into the building and his loud voice rang out. It's just that Heaven Duke and Earth Count aren't that easy to deal with, they are too stubborn and too conceited. Qin Mu's heart skipped a beat, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Celestial Venerable Hua. He is Celestial Venerable Hua. Xiao Chunfeng, Lin Xian and Yu Xiuhong revealed looks of despair. The visitors were now heading up the building and soon, they would come to the very top. When that time comes, the four of them would have no place to escape to and no place to hide. Why isn't Dao Ancestor sending us back? Xiao Chunfeng gripped his fists tightly and his body was trembling slightly. Qin Mu frowned. Now that Celestial Venerable Hua and the other person had already started to climb the steps, Dao Ancestor probably doesn't have the time to send them away. If Dao Ancestor was to execute his divine art now, he would definitely be detected by Celestial Venerable Hua. One had to know that Celestial Venerable Hua was one of the 9 Celestial Venerables, the founder of Celestial Being Divine Treasure. He was even more ancient than Dao Ancestor. His abilities were probably even above Dao Ancestor. Qin Mu gritted his teeth and suddenly turned around. A pitch-black gate of heaven influence silently appeared at the top, and there was no fluctuation of vital qi at all. Qin Mu's gaze twinkled and he signaled to Dao Master Lin Xian. Lin Xian walked forward and Qin Mu moved his hands quickly. His various kinds of finger skills had a myriad of changes, and they suddenly retracted, as he tapped his index and middle fingers on Lin Xian's forehead. He sealed his corporeal body and primordial spirit together before pushing him backward. Lin Xian's body fell involuntarily into Gate of Heaven influence, and he fell into Yudu. Qin Mu looked at Xiao Chunfeng, and Xiao Chunfeng hurriedly walked over. He did the same thing and sent him into Yudu. Yu Hongxiu hurriedly walked forward, and Qin Mu cast his spell once again. This time, he heard the voice from below again. The 2 ancient gods are ancient, yet they are stubborn, and only swallow ancient learning without digesting it. They cannot see the general trend. Those 2 voices moved closer to the top at a steady pace. Each of them has their own thinking. Heaven Duke is still fine, Earth Count is the slightly cunning one. Luckily for us, the daughter of Earth Count is still in the celestial heavens, and now son of Yudu is also born. They are the cruxes to getting rid of Earth Count. Qin Mu's heart jumped and his vital qi became messed up. Right at this moment, incomparably terrifying waves came assaulting from below, and filled the entire Guardian Pavilion. Someone had infiltrated in. Celestial Venerable Hua's voice rang out. Qin Mu's expression changed drastically, and he stretched out his hand to tap on the heart of Yu Hongxiu's brows before pushing her into Yudu. And at this moment, Celestial Venerable Hua's figure appeared at the very top, and he sneered. How dare you infiltrate Guardian Pavilion, what guts? You can't escape in front of me. Qin Mu sighed softly and turned around. He revealed a smile and said, Celestial Venerable Hua, long time no see. He turned around and his face had already transformed into Mu Qing's face. It's you. Celestial Venerable Hua's expression changed drastically, and Qin Mu took the chance to push forward with the tip of his feet, leaping towards Gate of Heaven influence that was behind him. His body moved backward, and was about to fall into the darkness. Celestial Venerable Hua's magic power burst forth, and he opened up his 5 fingers. The moment Qin Mu was about to fall into Yudu, he felt boundless magic power freezing him in place. He looked out and Celestial Venerable Hua was like an indomitable god standing outside. He was high above and the flames around him warped the space. Celestial Venerable Mu, it has truly been a long time. His voice seemed to be coming from another world, and that boundless magic power was unimaginable. Even across a world, his magic power could still easily control the life and death of Qin Mu. Do you still remember Jade Pool meeting? Celestial Venerable Hua said leisurely, it has already been 1,000,000 years, right? After 1,000,000 years, what makes me curious is that you don't seem to have any improvement at all. You are still as weak as you were in the past. Qin Mu and his distance quickly closed in. He was about to return back to the celestial heavens again. However, right at this moment, a paper boat appeared in Celestial Venerable Hua's line of sight. On the bow of the paper boat, an elder stood there with a lantern in his hand. Celestial Venerable Hua suddenly felt his magic power being cut off, and he immediately stopped to look at the elder messenger of death on the paper boat. One of them stood at the top of Guardian Pavilion shining with bright light everywhere. The other one stood in Yudu, and everywhere was dark. Celestial Venerable Yu. The corners of Celestial Venerable Hua's eyes twitched, and he said softly. The elder in the darkness said faintly, Celestial Venerable Hua. Celestial Venerable Hua had a complicated gaze and he said with softly, back then, we as the 7 celestial venerables, we were extremely close. Why are we now standing opposite each other? Celestial Venerable you, ever since Celestial Venerable you die, you had fallen. You shouldn't have gone to Yudu. After going to Yudu, your nature has become more and more peevish and antisocial. You have finally walked up the path of evil. I still remember when Celestial Venerable you died, you were grieving and twitching as you wore your devil mask. You back then was extremely emotional and extremely sacred. Even though I was irritated by your conduct, I didn't dislike you. When Celestial Venerable you died, you also cried. The messenger of death on the paper didn't seem to have any change in emotion, as he continued to say indifferently, but you had fallen and walked the path of evil. Back then, the righteous Celestial Venerable who had died along with Celestial Venerable you. Looking at you from the darkness now, I don't recognize you anymore. Celestial Venerable whose pupils contracted. At this moment, the elderly voice came from behind as he hurried to the top of Guardian Pavilion. There are enemies that had infiltrated Guardian Pavilion. Impossible, this is a sealed space and it's even situated in the center of the celestial heavens. It's a forbidden ground inside a forbidden ground. In the darkness, Elder Messenger of Death's paper boat ferried Qin Mu away. Celestial Venerable Hua's expression returned back to normal, and he gently waved his hand to send them off. He raised his hand and Qin Mu's gate of heaven influence was completely erased by him. Not a trace was left. Behind him, a white-haired old Daoist climbed up to the top, and he looked around. However, he couldn't see anyone and revealed a look of doubt. There's no infiltrators. Celestial Venerable Hua said, my senses were mistaken, there was no one here. Why is Dao Ancestor not here? That old Daoist said with a smile, it has already been 100 years since Dao Ancestor has returned. He always appears and disappears randomly, so I don't know when he will be back as well. Celestial Venerable Hua nodded his head gently and said, Dao Master, activate Guardian Pavilion, print the runes down, and send them to the place where they create divine weapons. I shall take my leave first. The old Daoist hurriedly executed his magic power, and all of the jade scrolls in Guardian Pavilion flew up to face the jade pillar in the center. Instantly, a beam of light rose from the bottom and shone on Celestial Venerable Yu's apparition that was at the top. Freeze! The old Daoist shouted and froze the light in place. He then took out his sword to slice out Celestial Venerable Yu's apparition from the jade pillar. It was weird to see, but when a huge chunk of the jade pillar was sliced off, it actually slowly grew back and returned back to normal. In this jade, Celestial Venerable Yu and those runes were still there and they could be seen clearly. It was this old Daoist that was using his magic power to execute runes, imprinting in the fine jade. If Qin Mu, Lin Xian, and the rest were still there, they would be flabbergasted and stomp their feet in frustration. They had only thought of how to memorize the runes of the Great Dao, and Qin Mu had also forged a mirror, spending a great deal of effort to forge the space inside the mirror. He had spent a very long time to forge a treasure that could imprint the runes of the Great Dao. Yet even so, intelligent people such as them would never have thought that the method to imprint these runes of Great Dao would be located at the very top. Furthermore, it was so simple. The runes of the Great Dao just had to be imprinted and sliced off to be brought away. In that way, one would be able to bring away all of the runes in Guardian Pavilion and also not leave a trace. It was just that the more intelligent one was, the easier they would waste time on solving a simple problem. Celestial Venerable Hua walked down the building, and he soon walked out of Guardian Pavilion. However, he hesitated and didn't head for Numinous Sky Hall. He said to himself, Celestial Venerable Mu, you have appeared again, is it really you this time? In the past years of darkness, you have appeared numerous times, but I know that wasn't you. He looked at Numinous Sky Hall far away, and his expression flickered. Even though you have beaten me up before, I don't have any hatred for you when you investigate the murderer of Celestial Venerable Yu and took revenge for him. Instead, I'm filled with respect for you. However, why have you appeared this time? You don't know that now isn't a million years ago. You now are too weak. He pulled back his gaze and walked in the opposite direction of Numinous Sky Hall. In Yudu, Qin Mu stood on the boat and looked around, searching for Lin Xian, Xiao Chunfeng, and Yu Hongxiu's whereabouts. I had pushed them into Yudu, they must have fallen nearby. Elder Messenger of Death at the bow of the ship hung the lantern at the bow and said, Yudu is so big and they aren't life forms of Yudu. They are also no son of Yudu, or Mingju Heavenly King. They can't use any divine art here, so they won't be able to fly. They will fall continuously, as you did back then. If they aren't gods, they would probably die of old age after falling for several hundred years. They might also suffocate to death. There is no air in the darkness, they can't breathe. Qin Mu stared at him and said, if you can catch me, you naturally can catch them as well. Elder Messenger of Death said indifferently, I had passed Celestial Venerable Yu to you, where is he now? Qin Mu said with a guilty conscience, he is very well, he's rather carefree now, even more carefree than me. He is following an elder of mine, who had taught and groomed me. His character is good, cultivation is high, and wouldn't hide any money he picked up from the ground. He is the model of Eternal Peace's scholars, the backbone of the empire. Elder Messenger of Death's expression changed slightly and he snorted, they have taught you to become like this, so how could they be any good? I'm not reassured when you hand Celestial Venerable Yu to such people. Qin Mu retorted angrily, how am I not good? I'm a Celestial Venerable as well that had shaken this world, the people that had groomed me are naturally virtuous. Elder Messenger of Death said indifferently, let me follow you to eternal peace, and let me see how virtuous they are. Qin Mu hurriedly said, you look so eerie. Are you going to scare people to death by running to the world of the living? Don't worry, I definitely won't treat Celestial Venerable Yu badly. I treat him very well. Quickly bring my 3 friends back, any later and they are going to suffocate to death. In front of him, 3 paper boats flew over and each of them had an Elder Messenger of Death standing at the bow. In the boats were Dao Master Lin Xian and the rest. Qin Mu was at ease and he smiled. You are always sharp with your words and soft in your heart. I knew you would save them. You can just bring us to the side of surging river. Elder Messenger of Death sneered. Only you would think I'm good. Look at the other 3 boats, which one of them doesn't have an ashen face when they see me? Qin Mu looked at those 3 boats and indeed, he saw Lin Xian, Xiao Chunfeng, and Yu Hongxiu all having ghastly white faces. They were curled up in a corner and looked extremely terrified. So why have you run to the celestial heavens? Elder Messenger of Death softened his tone and said, how is the celestial heavens a place you could come? If I didn't detect you opening gate of heaven influence again, you would have died here. How daring of you to be so reckless. I'm starting to regret handing Celestial Venerable Yu to you. Qin Mu smiled and said, but you had still come at the first notice and rescued us. I know you care for me very much. Elder Messenger of Death shook his head and said, I'm just worried that you had brought Celestial Venerable Yu to the celestial heavens. If I know only you were there, I wouldn't have come. Qin Mu's face turned black and he sneered. Go on, take Celestial Venerable Yu back. I want to see how you can teach him well. Elder Messenger of Death's face also turned black. After a moment, he mumbled, I don't know anyone else, you teach him. However, you need to teach him personally. I'm not reassured if it's those people that had groomed you. Celestial Venerable Hua is very dangerous, don't go near him. Qin Mu's heart stirred slightly and he said, when Celestial Venerable Yu died back then, you and Celestial Venerable Hua were the saddest. I could see that he is like you, both of you respect Celestial Venerable Yu from the bottom of your hearts. Maybe Celestial Venerable Hua is being blinded, maybe I can still pull him over to our side. Elder Messenger of Death cut him off and said firmly, people change. Qin Mu was stunned and asked, why would Celestial Venerable Hu change? What had he experienced these years? I had exposed that it was Celestial Venerable Hao, son of Heaven Yin, and even partly Celestial Emperor, that had killed Celestial Venerable Yu. Even if he isn't smart, he should be able to see this. Why has he continued to remain in the celestial heavens? People change. Elder Messenger of Death repeated this and suddenly said, we are at the world of the living, you guys should get off now. Don't go to the celestial heavens anymore, don't trust Celestial Venerable Hu as well, you will die. Qin Mu suppressed the doubt in his heart and jumped off the boat. Dao Master Lin Xian and the rest got picked up and thrown off. It was darkness below the ship, and in the next instant, light shone brightly. The four of them stepped on solid ground, and when they looked around, they saw a river surging and towering mountains not far from them. It was as if they had just experienced a dream. Qin Mu turned his head to look, and Elder Messenger of Death was long gone. Celestial Venerable Hu, have you really changed? Qin Mu was in a daze. Cult Master Qin, Cult Master Qin. Dao Master Lin Xian woke him up and said, we should return to clear sky heaven and handle what comes next. Qin Mu came back to his senses and nodded his head. He looked at Xiao Chunfeng and Yu Hongxiu. After what we had experienced, what are both of your plans? Xiao Chunfeng hesitated for a moment before saying, I'm from Celestial Heavens Dao sect and have similar inheritances with Dao Master Lin, therefore I plan to go Eternal Peace Dao sect and slowly develop, making a name for myself in the future. Yu Hongxiu pondered and said, I also want to go Dao sect, but I don't want to be a Daoist nun. Qin Mu's eyes lighted up. Sister Hongxiu, have you heard of Heavenly Saint cult before? My Heavenly Saint cult is a righteous sect. Part 331 and 332 end here. Thank you for watching.